Here is my completed DIY koi feeder. It is made out of high density polyethylene, but it can also be adapted to work in a container like this or any other type of container that you want. Just very basic. It comes with a plug-in controller that is programmable. You can feed it up to 24 times a day if you like. You can feed it every 30 minutes, every 10 minutes, but to feed it every 2 or 3 hours at a time is a little trickier to set up. So it's not the most flexible timer, but for my purpose it's gonna work, and I think for 99% of people it's gonna be workable. And the inside has a lot of space, so unlike the other koi feeders that only holds like 1 gallon or 2 gallons, this one you can definitely put up to, like, I would say maybe a whole 50-pound bag of koi food in here if you really wanted to. So it's really intended for long-time vacationers, or for people who just doesn't want to have to refill it a lot, or for people who have a lot of fish and they constantly have to feed it for growth. But yeah, so this is a very basic one. It's easy. It's I would say that I mean, I can't tell, but it should be very reliable. And since it's DIY, all the components can be purchased on Amazon. Very inexpensive. And if something breaks, you can replace individual parts. So there's really only three parts that's important. You got the timer, and then there's a motor, and then there's a little auger that spins so that it pushes out the food. That's it. And the rest is just, PVC piping. I use 2-inch PVC here, and the T's and connectors are all 2-inch, and then there's a bulkhead that connects to the bin right here. And I'm going to show how it's built, and hopefully it can prove to be useful for other people. For me, for extended vacations, or just to make sure that I feed the fish routinely, this is going to save me a lot of money, and I don't have to worry about things breaking because I can always replace it. It is fairly large, and the measurement is actually 18 by 18 by 24. And just to demonstrate, I'm gonna turn it on, use this, and then watch, it should start spinning when the power goes on. See that? And then the food should come out. So this is continuous right here. There we go. See that? There we go. Okay, so that's continuous. This is just to kind of show you how it works. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn on the other setting. Okay. So this one is just to demonstrate, but this timer is adjustable. So here it's going to be on for 7 seconds, and it's going to be off for 15 seconds, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and press confirm to kind of test it out. But this just demonstrates how flexible this thing is. Alright, here we go. So it's going to be on for 7 seconds. And then it's off. And then the countdown starts again before the next cycle begins. And we're going to just watch this fully so that we can really appreciate how a $20 timer can be very useful for this purpose. And it's on. I'll be going over the parts that are going to be needed to make this auto feeder. These are actually pretty basic, very inexpensive parts on Amazon. So the first thing you'll need is, this is a motor. It's an AC motor. If you look at the specs, it's gonna say 8 to 10 RPM a minute. It's a 110 volts AC motor. It's only 18 watts, so it's very small. It's got a flange right here, and a 7mm shaft with a hole drilled through it. This particular motor is good because it can be wired to do clockwise rotation or counterclockwise rotation. And then the next part is a programmable timer. This was for AC power source, so it plugs right into the wall like that, and then you can just connect the motor into here. And to do that, the best thing to do is just to get like one of these cheap PC power cords. Gonna have to chop it off and then wire it up. Now here is the other part. This is a coupler. Actually, I got the wrong size on this one. It's the shaft was 7mm, but the item that I want to couple it to is a little bigger, so I'm gonna reorder a bigger size, the one that goes from 7mm to the shaft of this auger, which is 9mm. The purpose of this auger actually is to rotate and then push out the food pellet, you see. Actually, what we want to do is have it do a counter rotation so that it pushes it out, as you can kind of see. This auger is 1.9 inch. The flutes right here is a 1.9 inch in diameter. The shaft is 7mm. It's actually a hex. On the end here is a hex. It's meant to go into the drill. That's probably not needed for our application, so even a circular round shaft would be fine. But the good thing about this size is if you get one that fits inside a 2-inch pipe, like so, it's gonna work. And of course, if you decide to use something smaller, just make sure to get the auger that fits inside it, like this. Okay, so the idea is to add, like, I'm gonna just kind of put it right here to make it easier. So we want to have a bulkhead that goes into a container attached to a T, and then the T is going to attach to the pipe, and then the auger is going to push it out. As food is getting pushed out, the food inside the bin container will continue to drop down into the bulkhead, and then that way when the timer switches it on, it will continue to push it out and always gets replenished. So it's a pretty simple idea, but I have not done it, and I want to try and see if it actually works. This motor came with a printout of the wiring diagram. So for typical clockwise rotation, they want you to wire the top two right here, and for counterclockwise, guess we're gonna have to use the two lines on the bottom. Since it doesn't tell me which one is like neutral or hot, I'm guessing it might not matter. So I'm gonna try to put the hot one in the middle and then the neutral on the bottom on the core that I just cut out right here. So I'm gonna strip this out and then wire it in and see how it works. Then we're gonna test it on with the timer. Okay, the motor is wired with counterclockwise rotation based on the diagram. Got the hot wire going into the middle terminal here, and then the white one on the bottom. I don't see anything for the ground, so I'm just gonna leave it hanging out like that for now. Then I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick test, see if it actually works. I'm gonna go and bring it here and plug it into my kitchen outlet. Hopefully nothing happens. Let's see. Here we go. Yep, it is spinning in a counterclockwise fashion. Actually, that's spinning in a clockwise fashion. Maybe I had the orientation wrong. Okay, so I'm gonna rewire it again. But it's a very slow rotation. It's 8 to 10 RPM. It's very quiet too, though. Okay, so now I've switched the cables. The black one continues to be in the middle, but then the neutral line I put on the top right here. Top relative to the shaft. And then I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. And it is spinning counterclockwise now. See it? So that is what we want. So at least we know that works. So this is the basic idea of how the internal of this bin is going to look like. You got the space here for the bulkhead, and then each side is kind of sort of like caving in towards the center so that all the food pallet will just fall into it eventually. Otherwise, if you just leave it flat, I feel like, you know, once it runs empty, at a certain point the food will just stop going here. But here, gravity will be helping us to pour it down. Ideally you want a cone bottom container or a tank, the one that is sort of like, you know, has a cone on the bottom with a drain out, but I couldn't find one in a reasonable amount of time, so I just decided to go with this route. So these two sides are pretty easy to cut, kind of trim the corner so it fits in here nicely. This one's gonna take a little bit of a measurement because it's gonna be a diagonal cut, and it's gonna be slightly trickier because these boards are not straight, they kind of curve a little bit, but it's not an aesthetic piece, so I'll be able to seal it up. Okay, so here's the third piece that was cut out. It's gonna go in, it's gonna wedge in between the two pieces, and then voila, everything will just go straight down here. Now the trick is to weld these things together and then either caulk all the corners or run some kind of tape to you know, smooth up the seams. But this should work. Here is what the box looks like after everything's welded. It did take me a couple of hours to cut everything and weld it, but this is the final product. It's not pretty, but as you can see, there's like a slope to everything, so all the food will just cave into the center right here, and then this will be where I put the bulkhead. Welded the plastic together using this heat gun. It's the brand name is welding. See what the model number is. I think it's an HT 1600. It's a regular heat gun. You don't have to use this particular brand. Just go to Harbor Freight and get one. But welding HDPE or high density polyethylene does require this type of a heat gun. It's actually pretty useful. I've done a lot of projects using this heat gun and this material. And then the next part is drilling that hole right there so I can attach the bulkhead. As you can see, I sort of marked the center, just an approximation. I don't have a specific hole bit or a hole saw bit that can fit the diameter of the bulkhead, so I'm going to start using a 2-inch, and then what I'll do is cut the hole and then use a jigsaw and expand the opening a little bigger so that the bulkhead would fit. That is what the hole looks like. It's not gonna fit because this thing's definitely bigger, so I'm gonna flip it upside down. So then we're gonna try to center that as much as we can. Then I'm gonna trace the outside of it like this. So that circle is trace. And then the next part is using a jigsaw. And it's gonna get noisy, so I'm gonna just cut it first, and then you kind of get an idea, you know, just go around. Easy peasy, right? So we got that trimmed out, and then let's see if this fits. Yeah, it should. Just gonna have to clean out the edges a little bit using this tool. Let's see if I can clean that out. Bam! There we go. Just like that. Of course, I have to put it on the other side. So there we go. Now we're gonna, since I don't want anything to go in from the underside, I'm gonna actually put the seal onto this side, and then I'm gonna just bolt everything in like so. Okay, so just like that. This is what the T assembly is gonna look like. Now this can be accomplished in a number of different ways. I just happen to adapted a 2-inch thread in here because my bulkhead, which was lying around, was not a slip. It was a threaded bulkhead on the inside, and I could not find one that had a male thread on the T right here. So I ended up having to use this kind of a adapter, but it goes. So once it's screwed in, this is what it looks like. And at the end, once again, I was just using random parts lying around and I couldn't get everything I wanted, and Home Depot just happened to have a cap that's threaded instead of a slip-on, so I'm using the adapter. But you can use one where you can slip on and put a regular 2-inch pipe in here and then slip the cap on, but mine's going to be threaded, so it's going to go in like that, right? The reason why you want the threaded on this end is because when the food is dispensed, you don't want anything falling out. And this cap right here is going to serve another purpose. Let me show you what it means. So once you have this thing in, you're going to slide the auger in like so, right? So the auger goes in like that. See? We want it just enough on this side, and most of the auger will be probably towards the back right here. And then you see, if we don't cap anything off, the food is going to fall out when it drops down. Now the cap is not going to be able to get in there, so we're going to have to drill a hole right in the center. And based on the size of this shaft, I'm thinking it's about 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So we got the hole drilled, and then this is going to allow you to slip it into the shaft right here. And once it's in, you're able to thread it, right? And now that you have it threaded, the shaft will have sort of like something to hold it in place. Think of it as like a makeshift bearing. I think over time this thing's probably going to wear out just a little bit, but it's probably not too bad. So there we go. It will hold it like so, and then it will be able to spin nicely like that. Now all we have to do is couple the motor onto the shaft and mount the motor. So I think what I would have to do is weld a piece of plastic right here. Let's see if I can find one. So something like this. So I'm gonna weld a piece of plastic and then mount the motor on and hook it onto the shaft, and that's it. This is the new shaft coupler that I purchased. It is 7mm on one end, 9mm on the other end. So it slides into the motor shaft on this one quite easily, like so. And then on the other 9mm side, it should go in here like that. So this is how we're gonna couple this together. This was purchased on Amazon. This is what it looks like when it is attached. Apparently this coupler acts almost like a spring because it bends a little bit, but I don't think for this application that it's gonna cause it to crack or anything. I don't think there's enough torque in here to cause an issue. So yep, this is what it looks like. Motor, shaft, coupler, shaft onto the T, and the auger is probably just about flush with the T right here. And then what you have to do is basically put another piece of pipe in here, you know, and wait a minute, something like that, you know, and then the food will just come out. Obviously this is upside down, but just imagine this thing inverted. After carefully examining the shaft here, I noticed that the hex in right here, it's a little bit loose when it goes into the coupler. So I'm gonna chop off that hex in so that it's just the round shaft. I think that'll be a better fit. Okay, I chopped off that hex in, but when it fits in here, it's not much of a difference, I guess. The reason why I wanted is why I needed to cut it, or at least wanted to cut it, is because of the fact that when I tighten the shaft coupler, it has more surface to bite into it. That way there's less chance of it slipping. This white piece right here will be the place where I will mount the motor. So think of that as a mounting plate. Kind of guesstimate the shaft right here. So I'll have to drill out a hole here for things to just go through. And what's gonna go through there would be that coupler, because that coupler is gonna have to fit between here. So I'll probably drill out like a little bit more than an inch. Looks like a 1 1/4 inch hole bit will fit, as you can see. So I'll be using this one. It's 1 1/4 inch. Just have to straighten this up a little bit, but that's the idea. And then I will be welding these spots right here, give it some strength, and I'll also reinforce it using these pieces that I cut out. I think what I'm going to do is cut 2 triangular pieces and weld it together like this. Give it strength. See that right there? And also on this side. Like that. Well, it's welded. It's not a nice job, but it will do. So the shaft is in. Now I just gotta bolt on the motor, and I'll be using some, I think like stainless steel screws with a little nut on it, just to keep it nice and tight. And that's about it. So for this application, I'll be using number 8, 32. I guess that's threads per inch, stainless steel, just to be safe. The motor is bolted on using some stainless steel screws and nuts, and the shaft has been tightened. Double check everything, but it looks pretty good. So now all we gotta do is test it out. Let me see if I can find a plug here. Here we go. Alright, let me check everything. Alright, it's on. It's spinning. Nice and slow. The shaft is moving as expected. Makes a little bit of a noise, but I think that's pretty normal. At 8 or 10 RPM it is very slow, but there's nothing truly stuck, so that is exactly what we want. For a little extra security on the core, I went ahead and folded it and then used a little 1/2 inch strap and just screwed straight into the plastic mount right here. So that should prevent it from, you know, getting loose or maybe accidentally pulling the terminals off. Then the top piece that I chopped off, I'll use it as a stand. It's going to be at the base, and it will also provide cover for the motor so it doesn't get wet. Hopefully protects it from, you know, other stuff. But mostly it's just a base so that you can sit the box on top of it without using this as support, so this thing does not get damaged. It's gonna look something like this when you flip it upside down. And right here, I have to cut out a hole so that the pipe can slip through. Otherwise, you know, it's gonna have this little gap here and can't dispense food here. So just gotta drill like a 2.5 inch hole right there, and it should fit perfectly. I went ahead and marked the inside of the base where I'm gonna cut out the hole so that the pipe can slip right through it. And I'm gonna go in with a hole saw and then trim it out using a jigsaw. So now the base can be put in place. The hole has been cut out so that the pipe can fit right through it. Just a little bit of a gap right here. In the back, cut out a little notch for the power cord. But here it doesn't fit perfectly right here because of the bulkhead flange is blocking it. So I'm gonna trim a little bit off right here so that I can fit everything. Just gonna go over it with the pencil, kind of give me an idea of how much I want to cut. There we go. So yeah, just a tiny little cutout right there. So now this should fit in here. So let's see what happens. There you go, nice and fit. Think I might have to trim out this hole just a little bit to make it more perfect. That way it could fit better on this, move it over a little bit better. But for the most part, that's the idea. And then I'm gonna have to weld a couple of plastic pieces onto the base like this. That way I can set it on and it doesn't fall out. It will act like a little rail to prevent the top piece from falling out. This way I can make sure that everything's in place, and if I need to service it, I can just pick it up and have the base be exposed, and the motors and the pipe and all these things be available for servicing if I need it, although I don't think it's necessary for a while. here is what it looks like. Got a couple of these welded pieces here to keep it in place. And then the front dispenses the food from here. It allows you to attach a 2-inch PVC pipe in and angle it out using an elbow, or extend it out if you need it. On the side, welded on some handles just to help with picking it up. And then this is the original lid. It's a little bigger because it doesn't have that flange rim around it, but it should be okay. So that's what the inside looks like. This area, it's kind of messy. I think I might tape it up to make it nice and smooth. That way the food will just fall down straight into here rather than get stuck here, because once it's stuck here, I don't think it's ever gonna go back in here. I got the programmable timer hooked up to a power cord, and then the motor is connected to the timer. We're gonna run a test to kind of demonstrate how this works. Okay, I've already set up the local time on this timer to match my time, but of course, everyone's gonna have to do that themselves. Alright, so we're gonna use the time cycle button right here. Alright, I'm gonna go to switch, which will bring up that mode, and then I'm gonna see when you press time right here, it gives you different settings. This particular setting allows you to adjust the hour and the minute for how long it turns on, meaning how long it gives power to the outlet right here. And then the off, it also sets into gives you the off setting, which is how long it's gonna stay off before it repeats again. We're not gonna use this setting because we don't want well, in this setting the lowest duration is minute, so we don't want the auger spinning for a minute. That's a little bit too long. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and press switch to go back out. We're gonna switch again, and then we're gonna hold this button, and it's gonna bring up a separate menu. So this menu is a little different because the on is now minutes here and then seconds right here, and then the off is minutes and seconds as well, even though it doesn't give you the H and the M. According to the manual, this is what it is. So I have set it up to turn on right here for 10 seconds and then off for 30 seconds, and this is to kind of demonstrate how it works. So now that I got that, I'm gonna press confirm, and we're gonna see how it works. Okay, so the switch goes on, the timer counts down for how long it's gonna be on, and then the auger, you can kind of hear it spinning. Actually, let me take this thing off. I jammed it in a little too hard. Okay. Okay, so here is the timer, and it's switched on again. See that? And the auger is spinning, so that means it's gonna churn out the pellets. And then it's off, and then now the off timer was set to 30 seconds, so it's gonna count down into 0, and it's gonna turn on again. So the purpose of this demonstration is just to show you how it works. Now we're gonna go and test it out. Well, we're gonna do something else besides testing this timer. We have to kind of calibrate how much food we want coming out, and that means how many seconds we have to program this for to get to the right amount of food to come out. And then we're gonna use the scale to measure it and calibrate it. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch this off. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna go ahead and dump some of this food in here and see if anything falls out. Hopefully it doesn't fall out here. Right, it falls out a little bit. That was expected because the auger sits back a little further, but in daily use, it's gonna stop, so I don't think it's gonna keep falling out. Okay, so we got that. Here is a basic kitchen scale. I'm gonna turn it on. I'm in the unit, it says ounce. Gonna put a cup on. We're gonna zero that. Okay, so now it doesn't count the weight of the cup. And we're gonna turn on the switch. And then go into the minutes and second mode. And here we go. I'm gonna press confirm. So it's gonna spin for 10 seconds, and then we're gonna weigh this and see how much 10-second dispenses. Okay, so that was 10 seconds worth of food. Actually, this is pretty reasonably accurate. It's a good guess. Oh, you know what? That's 2.6. Alright, that's maybe a little too much. And adjust it again. I think I'm gonna go with 6 seconds. Alright. Food comes back in. We're gonna press confirm. So this is 6 seconds. So it gives you, okay, 2 ounce. So if I'm doing 2 ounce and okay, so this timer has some flexibility but also some limitations. And for my purpose, you know, the limitations doesn't prevent it from being useful. So that's why I chose this timer. And I'm gonna just do a basic walkthrough of how it's set up, okay? So you got the confirm button, there's the hour adjustment button, and then there's the minute adjustment button. Basically, when you see the double-digit fields like right here, on the left side, it's typically adjusted with the hour button, and then the seconds or the minutes on the right side, it's adjusted with the minute button. The time setting allows you to set up a time period or duration in which the switch will feed power to this outlet. The time circulate is a setting where you can turn it on for certain hours or minutes or seconds, and then off and then on again. So it's an on and off, and it repeats. The countdown basically gives you, you know, on the number of time and hours that you want to count down before it turns on. For our purpose, let's just go ahead and do the time adjustment. I'll show you how it's done. So I already have the clock set, but we're gonna show you what's up. So you press the switch, hold the confirm button, and then it's gonna flash. Okay, so if you press the hour, it's gonna adjust the hour. Press the minute, it's gonna adjust the minute. Since I already got it adjusted, I'm not gonna mess around with it anymore. So I'm gonna press confirm. Alright, so now we got the local time set. And then now if we wanna do, well, as an auto feeder, you don't want to spin the auger all the time, so we have to use 2 settings combined. So I'm going to walk through right now. So we're going to do the time cycle, which is the time that you want the switch to be, the power to be on. Okay, we're going to press switch, we're going to go time. Now under this setting, I already have the on right here. It goes by military hours, so, well, military clock, so it goes to 24 hours. And then I got mine to be on at 6, and it's gonna be off at 21, or I should say 9. Okay, so let's see, we're gonna go with that, and then we're gonna press the hours here to kind of show you. Alright, so the on time, if I did that, it would go to 7, right? And then all the way out here. So I'm gonna go to cycle all the way back to 6. Now don't press confirm, okay, because if you press confirm, it's gonna activate right away. We're gonna go on to the next setting. We're gonna press time again. Now this part flashes, so the off time is at 21 hour. So for us, that means 9 p.m. and I'm gonna switch it to maybe just 8 p.m. So I'm gonna go with 20. Alright, so 20. and then so it's the power is gonna go. If we use this setting, the timer is gonna allow the power to go in at 6, and then it turns it off at 20. Okay, now if we press confirm, it's gonna activate right away. But notice how on the left side of the number 2 it says number 1. Well, under this menu or this setting, you can have 3 different time blocks that you can adjust. So if I press time again, it's gonna go onto the setting number 2. Now it's blank because I'm not using it, but I'll have to do another video and explain how this can allow you to adjust more settings later on. And then timer number 3 is also blank. Okay, so we don't need that, right? Okay, so now we got that. Once again, if we press confirm, it's gonna go on. So let me just demonstrate. Okay, so as I press confirm, it's gonna keep spinning continuously, and then it's gonna keep feeding. So we don't want that. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off. All right, so the switch button turns it off. Okay, so here is the other thing. All right, so now that we have the time cycle that means we're probably feeding from the day until early evening. Now we want to go switch time circulate. So this one will give us a more fine adjustment. Hold it. Okay. Well, so now we're on the minute and second setting. I already had it at, as you can see, I already have it at 7 seconds of dispensing and then 30-second delay. Obviously, when we're feeding, we don't want 30-second delay. So what we're gonna do is set the minute and the second to close to 1 hour. So we're gonna press this. Okay, so now we're down on the bottom field right here, and that's minute and this is second. So we're gonna press the minute button right here, or the hour button, to adjust the left field. We're gonna go all the way up until 59. Unfortunately, this thing doesn't go beyond 60. 59, it cycles back to 0. So we have to set it at 59 to give it the longest possible duration before it activates again. See that? Alright, so if I press it, it goes down to 0. Unfortunately, it doesn't go higher than that. So that is the limitation of this timer. We're gonna go back again and we're gonna set it to 59. Okay, here we go. Okay, and then so that's 59 minutes and 30 seconds, right? So, well, since it's gonna take 7 seconds to spin it, instead of leaving it at 30, we can always bring it up to like maybe 50. You can go 59 here too to be exactly 1 hour, but since we're spinning it for 7 seconds, I'm gonna just go to 50. All right, so we got this. So this is set. Now we have to kind of confirm it to save this setting. So I'm gonna press confirm, and of course it's gonna spin again. All right, here we go. So that was 7 seconds worth of food. And then now you can tell which mode is activated based on the little ring bell right there. So now it says off. It's gonna be off for 59 minutes and 30 something seconds before it turns back on again. If we use this setting only, we're feeding it 24/7 every 60 minutes essentially, but we don't want that, right? We only want to have it on at certain times. Okay, so we have to turn this off. Now we go to the time mode, right? It's gonna go on jump back to the time that we set, which is on at 6 and off at 8 p.m. Okay, and since it's flashing, I don't think this is gonna work, but what you have to do is combine this mode with this mode. So let's see if we can do this. We're gonna hold this button here. Yeah, see, it's not gonna work, right? So we have to actually activate this mode first. So I have to confirm it. All right, so it's gonna be tricky. You know, let me just put a bucket right here. That way I don't have to do this. All right. Okay, let me put this on. holding it. Okay, so we're gonna have to confirm the first setting. Confirm. Now it's gonna keep spinning, right? Because the work light is on. Now we have to hold this button to combine this minute and second setting. Here we go. We're gonna hold it. Okay, so now the ringer bell is flashing. That means it's combining the other one. So what you're gonna see is, see that? It turned off. It spun for 7 seconds and then it turned off. And it's not gonna turn on again until that timer countdown, which is 59 minutes. Once that 59 minute elapses, it's gonna spin again. But this combination means it's only gonna be working from 6 a.m. until 22 p.m. 8 p.m. or 20 o'clock. Okay, right here. So, or 20 hour here. So now you see the off text right here. That means it's off. It's gonna be off at 8 p.m. That's it. So this is how I'm gonna set it up. It's a very simple device. It is intuitive. Well, it's not intuitive, I should say, but you can play around with the setting and still, you know, program it to feed it like this, or you know, break it down to 3 separate chunks and then feed it every once or twice every 2-3 hours, and then once or twice another 2-3 hours. That way you can have up to like 4, 5, 6 feedings if you want. It's just a matter of learning how to adjust the timer. But it's very workable. It comes with a manual, so you can always reference it and just play around with it, and it should work. So I hope this helps. And once you got your settings all dialed in, you want to make sure the buttons are locked. And according to the manual, press confirm and hour button together. It will activate the lock. So confirm and hour together. Let's see. Yep, there you go. The lock icon is on, so you can't mess around. Very nice.